Welcome, Dr. Femido.
Thank you.
Nice to have you on the show today. My first question to you, I was just thinking, why are you called FBI? Are you part of the intelligence agency?
No. It's an abbreviation of my names.
Right.
In full, it's Oluwafemi Olatobosundu. But
Okay.
I think when I was in medical school, my friends prefer to call me Femi Bosundu.
Okay.
So that became FBI. And now it's favored beyond imagination.
Oh, okay. Favored beyond imagination. Yeah. I think I prefer that one better. That's a good one. One of the things I've heard you say, and also when checking on your profile, is that your passion is raising thinking Christians. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? Or what do you mean by raising thinking Christians?
Okay, I'll try and make it brief. One of the things I've found out in Christendom is that most of the times Christians, they substitute knowledge for, they substitute emotions for knowledge. Right. If you consider the fact that God is a God of knowledge, He created us as thinking beings. Let me give you an example. You remember Apostle Paul told Timothy that God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. Okay. In the original Greek, the sound mind means a mind that can analyze complex issues, a mind that can solve enigmas. So when I see Christians in churches, they've instituted mediocrity. They think the fact that they are Christians means that they should take leave of their thinking faculty. Very true. It's as if there's a regression. And the consequence of that is that people tend to swallow all sorts of things that are unscriptural. Once somebody who is charismatic tells them something, they just follow like a sheep without really thinking about it. And you find a lot of the beliefs, a lot of the practices you will see in modern day Christianity has no basis in Christianity at all.
Nothing to back it up, really. Yeah.
And a lot of people who then wonder why the power of God is not manifesting in their lives.
Sure.
When you challenge them, why are you doing this? Most people don't have, they can't back it up. They cannot tell you why yes. they are doing what they are doing.
It's probably because they heard it from somebody and they're just continuing it. Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah. Very true. Okay. So let's go back a bit. So now we've got that in place. I'll also come to something I need to touch on because I know you're a pastor and at the same time you're a medical doctor. So we'll look at how you've been able to balance those with your faith. Okay. But let's journey back into a bit of your childhood. So you're one of 19 children.
I'm one of 19, yes.
That must have been quite a big family, wasn't there? Yeah.
Like most things, it's in retrospect that I appreciate how that is unusual. Growing up, it never really bothered me. Most of the things that I look back now and they appear significant to me. When I was growing up, it's just something I took in my strides. The seventh of 19 children, the fourth of my mom. Okay. My mom was the first wife, 5 different women for my
dad. Okay, must have been a very busy and active man then. Yes. Okay. So now let's look at, so then you went through college, university in Nigeria.
I did.
What made you decide to be a medical doctor?
That's another story. My mom had a distant cousin, one gentleman called Oyalowo. I remembered when I finished in Olivet, I had very good results. I did 8 subjects and I had seven A's and 1 C. And they were all predominantly science subjects.
Okay.
And he came around and said, "Oh, what would you like to do?" I smiled and said, "Oh, well, I'd probably like to become a veterinary doctor."
Okay.
In his wisdom, he said, "Well, that would be good, but it would be better if you can be a human doctor.
Why?
That would be more beneficial."
Why veterinary? What did you think? Did you like animals?
I just picked something from the air. But having said that, when I was 10 years old,
yes,
in that 1-bedroom house we were living, we had a neighbor, one guy called Alhaji Nasidi, who took a shine to me, and we went about all the everywhere. And he would say, "Oh," one day he asked me, "Femi," he said it in pidgin English, "now what you want to be?"
Okay.
I didn't answer. He said, "Oh, doctor." And from that day, he called me doctor. So that became like my first name. So that was what he called me. But growing up, people had all sorts of nicknames. Yeah. Some people jumped on the bandwagon. They were calling me doctor, but he really didn't register. So
interesting. Yeah. Okay, so moving then from Nigeria to here, what then led to you crossing over? Okay. But before then, can I just ask, when was it that you began your relationship with God in terms of, yes?
I became a Christian I became a Christian, if I remember correctly, July 1991. It was a Monday, and
that's being specific.
Yes,
and remember.
I can remember that it was a Monday. I can remember that it was between 5 and 6 p.m. I can't remember the exact. I can remember that it was at Premier Hotel in
That's
Ibadan,
really good.
At a full Gospel Businessman Fellowship.
Okay.
I can remember that it was one bank holiday that came from America that shared the word then, and it was going to round up. And I specifically can remember that one gentleman who's late now, called Timothy Olani Ikolade, stood up and said, "No, we can't just end like this. Let's give an altar call." And that was it for me. Okay.
One of the things I remember you saying is that you became a Christian by choice.
Yes.
What do you mean by being a Christian by choice?
Let me put it this way. By my attitude to life, I'm really not a joiner. I don't go with the flow. Okay. I don't just do things because that's what everybody does. It is fashionable. Yeah. I must have a reason for doing something. And I believe that that's always helped me in life. Okay. If I decide to do something, it's either I'll put my best into it. I'm not saying I'll do it more excellently than any other person. So by saying I became a Christian by choice, is that it was an intentional decision. Yeah. And I told myself that I wasn't going to end up like any other mediocre Christian.
Okay, so moving on to when you got into the UK. So you came here. Why did you come here regarding job-wise?
I came here. I trained in Nigeria as an obstetrician gynecologist. I was offered a job as a consultant in UCH. Okay. But then this overseas doctor training program just came up. Right. It was an opportunity to come and had an international flavor to my training. Okay. And it was supposed to be 3-4 years. So I took the opportunity and came here. Unlike most people, I got to this country, my job was waiting for me, accommodation was waiting for me. Excellent. I walked into it the first month. I earned, what was the salary then? Just 8,000 something
Oh,
pounds,
okay.
and that was about 24 years ago.
Okay. So you unlike people that come in and then they
So
struggle. Everything was.
I had, but let me
What
tell
then
you,
happened?
all hell broke loose that year. I went from hero to zero.
Wow.
I went from somebody who was celebrated before I left UCH to it was terrible. Everything that could go wrong went wrong that year, and it's the climax was that the sponsorship was withdrawn. The Home
The
Office,
sponsorship of 4 years that you were given was withdrawn. Wow. Okay.
The Home Office, the Royal College wrote to the Home Office that they've withdrawn it, and they recommend that I should be deported.
So from someone that had, a job, everything looking right about, within the same year, there was a turnaround.
Completely.
What kept you during that period?
God. And the fact that the few years that I'd been, then I was just about 2-3 years into being a Christian.
Right, okay.
But I had good foundation, and I associated myself with people who knew more than me, who were more established as Christians, people who had the same ethos in Christianity as myself, who dealt with the word, not the sentiments. They really encouraged me. I have a wonderful wife who spoke encouragement to everything I did, and that kept me. I must say this: when I went to the Royal College and they told me that I had to leave.
Is that the Royal College
of Obstetricians and Gynecologists?
Okay, yeah, okay.
The lady said the only option I have is to sit plab.
Okay.
That if I can sit plab and pass, then there will be a consideration.
Okay, that's like taking you back, isn't it?
Yes, that was a trap. It's like telling somebody that you have a beast behind you, but you'll be saved if you can jump this Olympic-sized swimming pool. Then she never thought I was going to pass, because plab was a different kind of beast then.
That's true.
And I went and registered for plab.
And also the duration, isn't it?
I was told that you need to prepare for about 6 months. Because I was ignorant, I just picked the date that was about 2.5 months before then. But to God be the glory. I didn't realize all that when I was doing that.
Yeah.
It's like the bumblebee. Nobody told the bumblebee that if you are this fat and you have very short wings, you can't fly. So I sat for the exam, and I passed.
Oh, wow.
In our group,
within that 2 months, 2.5 months,
we had a discussion group, which is about, I think we're about 12. They had been preparing before I joined them. Only 2 of us passed.
Out of the 12.
So it was shocking to me. When I now realized that only the guy we were using his house and myself passed, I was shocked.
Okay. So I think that must have maybe brought the reality of the magnitude of what you got into.
I knew I was in the center of the will of God. That can only be the explanation.
Exactly. Okay. And that obviously fired back on them, because they had thought you won't be able to pass it.
To start with, they thought I was lying when I said I passed.
So when you go back to them, you told them.
Because
everybody
was calling
God,
each other
after
we got the result. I didn't bother to call. It wasn't that I wasn't going, but I think I was attending to something else. So they called me, and I said I passed. So they thought I was I was joking.
Right. Okay. So that meant, what then happened after that, in terms of you then became a member of, so the same institution that told you to go, asked you to leave the country, they reversed. What then did they do after a period of time, and how did you get to that?
Well, I got my GMC registration reinstated.
Okay, what's the GMC registration? Is that like
Well, the General Medical Council.
Right, okay.
That's the regulatory bodies for doctors in the United
okay,
Kingdom.
that's just what viewers understand.
Then I sat for the professional exams
Okay.
For the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists.
Okay.
I passed. After a few attempts, I became a member, and to the glory of God, 5 years ago, I became a fellow of the same college that said I should leave.
You should pack your things. What an interesting journey. What does it mean to be a fellow? Because you were invited, weren't you?
Yeah. Yes.
You were invited.
You can only be invited.
Exactly.
And you have to be recommended by 2 other fellows. They will invite you, then 2 other fellows they are going to give you a character and professional reference
okay.
that you're of good standing.
Okay. And the reason why I asked about that is just so that the audience will be able to understand the the importance
That
of
is the
what
highest you can in that college. Once you're a fellow, you're a fellow. That's the best you can get.
There was a practical exercise that you did.
Okay.
I'd like you to share that, because at times, Christianity is not just about what we read in the Bible. I think we have to move on to the extra step where we begin to practicalize. Can you share that with us, please?
You remember I told you that I had good people around me?
Yes.
The day I got the letter, a very good friend of mine, she's in Nigeria now, was with us, and I showed her. And she said, okay, bros, you know what we're going to do? We're going to reverse this. So we took that letter, we spoke to the letter, we then went to the Royal College.
This was the letter you got that told you to go back, yes. Yeah, okay.
We went to the Royal College, actually that of the Home Office and that of the Royal College.
Right, okay.
So we went to Russell Square in London, and we spoke in tongues around the building, and it's not just a single building.
Yes.
It's like a whole area. And we walked around it 7 times, and actually what we decreed was that the same people that said I should go would invite me back. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I was yet to sit for PLAB then, but the day I went for, this can be interesting. We did this on a Friday.
Yes.
The day I was made a fellow.
How many years down the line was this?
We did
roughly?
We did this 1993.
Yes.
I was made a fellow 2011.
Okay.
So it was a Friday, and it was a Friday.
That is such a wonderful testimony. So just to round up as we do that, you're currently now a GP, and a well-known GP for that in your area. It is a well-known GP. And the whole idea is just to paint a picture of the journey that you've had to walk, where you've then had to go from a situation where there was this wonderful job waiting for you. Then that was reversed. It seems as if, the devil at work, everything seemed to have been stripped, but God has a way of constantly restoring us. So you then got that restoration back. And then you're now working as a GP. You working as a GP, and you being a pastor that preaches on healing. How do you marry that together?
I tell people I'm a full-time minister of the word and a part-time GP. And that needs explaining, but I don't think we'll have enough time for me to explain that. Because I always consider myself first as a Christian, above all things, as a child of God.
Excellent.
One thing every Christian must realize, there's no conflict between Western medicine and the Bible at all. The first thing you must know is that God wants you well. In fact, the third epistle of John, the second verse says that, chapter 1, second verse says, beloved, that is my dear, I wish above all things, that is in my list of priorities, that you be well and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. That is, if I have anything above all else that I would like for you, this is it, that you prosper, you be in health, even as your soul prospers. God's best is for you to walk in divine health or divine healing.
Right.
Western medicine comes a distant second.
Right.
But whichever way you get it, God wants you vibrant, well, because that gives a good testimonial for God.
Thank you for that. And just as we round up, my eyes keep going up to your blazer where it says Mind Gym. What's Mind Gym about as we just round off?
Mind Gym is just a catchy way of saying everything that I'm all about. I said raising thinking Christians,
right?
Instead of building your muscle, you need to build your mind.
And that says it off in a nutshell. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure being here with you. And I'm sure our viewers today will learn one or two things, especially in terms of being a thinking Christian, not someone that is being spoon-fed, but the ability to be able to hear things, watch TV series like this, and then go back and reflect on God's goodness in our lives.
Amen.
And thank you for sharing your journey with us.
Thank you.
Next week on Story Before Glory.
And at the age of 10?
Yeah, I had my 7 A to C, so I redid French and got an A, and it was like God placed him there at that right time.